My name is Aoiri Obaigbo, author of The Wretched Billionaire. Chapter 2. 4 hours after Faith took the ride, Ibadan walked along the same road to the same river. He had a fantastic story to share with his girlfriend. His tongue was light and eager throughout the journey from the village because the new year had ushered in a very prosperous disclosure. Ibadan could now easily sponsor his girlfriend's comfort and education. He could even take good care of her family and release her father from the drudgery of the police force. There was a new prowess in his gait. His future was now free from uncertainties. The life of a wealthy, happily married professor of history beckoned to him. Faith's letter announcing the death of Sergeant Victor Eromosele was still on its crawl to Ibadan's village, 12 days after it was entrusted to the post office in Benin City. After several fruitless trips to Faith's hostel, his brand new shoes had grown dusty and uncomfortable, but Faith and her dimples were still at large. The young man's good news remained unbroken, and a worrisome poem echoed from the rippling river. In the beginning, the earth was a lonely place, and God said, "Let there be love," and it was so. But the beams came, and love came adrift. The earth became a cursed place, since love was all that made sense. The poem did not make any sense. Ibadan had very little room for God in his mind. The words did not relate with his past, present, nor his vision of the future. He dismissed the poem, but the way it flared out of nowhere made Ibadan uneasy. You may safely describe Ibadan as a young man with an addictive thinking habit. Ibadan often gets so wrapped up in his own mind's activity that real time disappears completely. He was alarmed by the thoughts of beams cutting his love loose. Thus a stupid poem popping up this night. "Our love can never come adrift," he said aloud, rising to his feet. "When we were poor, our love was hewn out of diamond. Now that I own my grandfather's treasure, our love can be even more formidable, taller, thicker, and more deeply rooted than the father of trees, which awes everyone in our village." Ibadan returned to silence and sat once more on the boulder by the river, on which the lovers used to sit for hours. After a while, he could hear the wizened village bird singing, a vivid memory of a husky voice, rendering a rhythmic description to the sounds of mallets deftly striking the miramba. The father of trees, ears cannot believe the mother, so tall that birds on its branches feel safe from the hunter's gun, so stout that 3 men holding hands, arms spread wide, cannot encircle it, and its roots reaches the heart of the earth. Mere ears cannot believe the mother, the eyes that have seen its majesty leave the mouth open, wide open. Ibadan smiled and said aloud, The love between face and eye is taller, thicker, and its root is deeper than the father of trees. Yes, you can safely describe Ibadan as a young man addicted to his own restless thoughts. In those days, before he found love in fate's enticing dimples, Ibadan often got so immersed in his mental strain that people and words flew by like faint shadows and distant echoes. The crescent was concealed by dark clouds. He could not see the water, but he could hear its gentle ripples against the wooden bridge. This far out place in the fringe of the campus was like a shrine for his love. Ibadan heard his own heart beat louder as he rose to his feet and slowly made his way back to the campus. Must be past midnight. Unknown to Ibadan, whilst he shuttled between his room and Faith's room in Oruan, she was soaking her feet with her tears beside this same teasing water. As soon as Ibadan arrived from his village, he took a taxi to Forestry Road to upgrade his wardrobe. From there, he took an unmarked cab to her hostel and walked eagerly to her room in his new clothes. She left soon after she arrived. One of her roommates announced. "Thank you," Ibadan said, convinced that Faith had gone to his place. As he walked further from the river, his hands buried in his pockets, it soon dawned on Ibadan that those beats were not from his heart, but from distant drums. It became more obvious with every step. The drums were occult. When he saw giant tongues of flames rising to the sky, he froze. Witches and wizards flew through his mind. Those shady characters were always credited with stunts that baffled the uninitiated. Ibadan grew up in a village where there were ample stories of their dark signs and confessions by disgraced witches. Could he be walking towards a coven? He started walking back towards the river. After a few steps, he realized how unwise the retreat was. There was no comfort back there, no human company, and no sign of the school authority. Those drum beats were certainly coming from human beings, though there was no comfort in that awareness either. When people come out to the wilderness to drum and dance at this unholy hour, they could not be good company. He saw the tongues of flames ascend again and again. How were they pulling this fearful stuff? Ibadan stood there undecided for a few unending minutes. He could hear his heart thumping a crazy beat of its own. They are not likely to be having their party along the road, he told himself. Those fingers on the drum may even be far from the campus. Sounds travel far at this time of the night. He resumed his journey towards the campus cautiously. Ibadan could discern movement in low light scenario better than normal people. He could move without making a sound, could stand perfectly still, and had the ability to sense danger. The hunter's son edged forward, forcing his usually drifty mind to stay focused. It became obvious after some time that the wide drumming was indeed within the campus. That was puzzling. I could hear the sound from the river. Then it can't be heard from the VC's lodge. So why haven't the security people stopped there? He wondered. Even more puzzling was the fact that he had been coming out here since 100 level with Faith and had never seen anyone out here. He used to live under the illusion that these city people had no stomach for this dark terrain. As Ibadan stepped from the earth road to the asphalt stretch, he could hear voices singing, struggling to ride the frenzy of drums and gongs. The rustic youth lay on the road and pressed his ear against the cold road. He could not believe the vibrations. There were thousands of shoes pounding the ground from his estimation. The songs were yet indistinguishable, but they were certainly not witches or wizards. They were the notorious fraternity boys he had often heard about. A combination of adventurous students from various campuses might be a very fickle chemical. These voices were echoes from deep barrels of alcohol. These thoughts created flutters in his guts. Go back to the river, he advised himself. What if a crocodile shows up for supper?